What's up, y'all? I'm Alan Hain, the Lawn Care Nut. Thanks for coming back for yet another week. So I'm starting out here in the garage today because this video, and I might break this down into two videos, but this video is going to be all about spreader settings. It's one of the most common questions that I get every year is, Alan, what spreader setting do I use for this product or that product? And so what I've decided to do is make a video to show you exactly how to figure out what spreader setting to use for any product. You don't need anybody to tell you the spreader setting to use. You can figure it out all on your own using your own equipment, and it's pretty easy. And so the way we're going to do this is I'll use this later. I'm going to take this spreader that's brand new to me, and I've actually never even used a Scott spreader that I know of. Maybe when I was younger, I used like a little one, Speedy Green or something, but never any seriously or anything. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to break it up, and I'm going to show you exactly how I would calibrate it to use it, and then I'm going to do an application. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open this thing up and I'm going to show you exactly what to do when you get a brand new spreader, or at least what I would do, at least how I would kind of go about getting to know and understand my new piece of equipment. And then once we do that, we're going to do a couple tests with it so we understand how the spreader settings work, and we're going to talk through that. And then we're going to actually apply a real product here. This is our Yard Mastery by Sunnyland. I actually have the label up here somewhere. This is our prodiamine product that we have, and a lot of people have asked me, Alan, what spreader setting do I use for this prodiamine? So I will show you the exact spreader setting to use, at least on my particular Scott's EdgeGuard spreader. It'll be a good start for you. I'll show you what to do there, and then I'll also give you the spreader settings that we use on the prodiamine here for the 2600A+, which is another really popular spreader that we all use. This is my daily driver here. So anyway, I don't know if that'll end up being two videos or not. I think it probably will, but in the end, the idea will be that you'll know how to calibrate your spreader fully and then see exactly how to make a proper application. And in this case, it's prodiamine pre-emergent, and we're doing a 3 pounds per thousand rate. So we'll get into that in a minute. First, let's go get to know this brand new Scott's EdgeGuard spreader. They had like, I don't know, 100 of these like stacked up at the store, just right on top of each other. There's no box, nothing. They just ship them just like this, all kind of tied up together. I love iconography. I guess that's telling me to throw these away. Throw these away, man, with malice. I don't think there's a manual either. Do you even get a manual? No. Huh. I thought I would at least get some kind of paperwork, but maybe not. All of these spreaders work very, very similar. You have your settings here. This particular one has a dial setting, and all the Scott spreaders do. And in fact, I'm pretty sure they keep it consistent across the line. But again, you're gonna see a little bit later how to actually calibrate the spreader, because even the same exact model spreader from one to another will probably not be the same. That's why it's important for you to calibrate your own, but we'll get to that later. So either way, you can turn this dial, just put it at 2 there, and you'll see it barely opens the drop hole. See that? See how it barely opens it? So that would let very little material through. And then of course, as you go up, we'll go up to like 12 here, you'll see drop hole opens much greater. It doesn't look like there's a setting for it to go wide open though, at least not here. Let's see. There you go. So there's pretty much the widest. So it's not a precision piece of equipment. So we're not going to use this at extremes. We're not going to use it at extreme wide open, and we're not going to use it at extreme small either, because it's not precision enough for extremes like that. It's really designed for middle of the road kind of stuff, I guess is the best way to say it. Of course, this one does have an edge guard. We'll talk about that when we do the application itself. And then this is the agitator. And as you spin the wheels, that moves around that agitator there. See, as you push. And what that does is it just makes sure that all that fertilizer doesn't pack in there and stop falling. That agitator will keep spinning in there and make sure that it keeps going down the hole. And then the other thing that you're going to want to be aware of here is the impeller. So the fertilizer drops down on this impeller and it spins, and you'll see that these wings on here, they throw the fert out, and that's what gives you that nice pattern, is that, and spreads out nice and even. And that's why we like to use a broadcast spreader, which is what this is, because you get a nice throw, you get a nice wide swath, and you have much less chance of striping. You can do your overlap a little bit differently. So just trust me on when I say that if you have a super small lawn under 1,000 square feet, then you can use a drop spreader. But if you have anything any bigger, now if you have small parkways like I have over here, this is where a drop spreader can definitely come in handy. Especially, I have a few parkways here. You could use a drop spreader in here, and that would be a good idea. So if you do want to make the extra investment of, I don't know what a drop spreader costs, 20 bucks or whatever, just to do your parkways, that can be a good idea. I happen to have gotten this little thing here, this little handheld, and that's what I'll use for parkways. I don't know if I'll show it in this video, but that's also a very good alternative because, again, it helps you keep everything dialed in evenly. It's never acceptable to take your hands and throw out product like that because your hand can't get it spread evenly, so it just doesn't work. Don't ever use your hands to spread product. Okay, so I'm going to make this as simple for you as I can. The first thing I want you to do is, on whatever spreader you have, is set it to 1/3 of the full opening. So I got 15 dials on this one, and 15 is the biggest opening, and obviously 1 is the least opening. So 1/3 of that is 5. Set your spreader on 1/3. Then I want you to look at a couple different products. Here you can see I've got our Sunnyland 007 prodiamine. It's 0.38% prodiamine product. You can see the prill size here. Next, I'm going to look over at Milorganite. See that prill size? Quite a bit smaller. So what you want to do is, with that 5 in my case, so that 1/3 opening, is just put some prills next to the opening and just make sure that it looks like they can actually fall through that opening. If your prills can fall through that opening, then you're ready for the next step. One of the other reasons I want you to look at the opening and then the prill size is just because this is going to start helping you visualize. It's going to start putting things into your mind's eye, and it's going to help you have better common sense when you're out there applying to the lawn. Anything that you do to visualize ahead of time is going to help you when you execute later. So the next thing you're going to want to do is measure off a 1,000 square foot area in your lawn. I have videos that I'll link to below that show you how to measure your lawn, but basically you take length times width and you do that in feet, and that's how you get square feet. So in the case over here on my side lawn, I measured out 1,000 square foot area. Then go ahead and walk in the middle of that area, step it off, take a look at it, and understand what it feels like to walk that 1,000 square foot area. Okay, so I marked this off, and one thing I've realized is during my weeknight lawn work, my midweek mow, I didn't get to weed whack. I need to go ahead and weed whack before I finish this video. This is terrible. By the way, here's some dead weeds from the weed spray last week. Curling and twisting and yellowing is what you see. This is 1 week after app. Okay, it's getting a little windy out, but this next step is optional. But I think you should do it because, again, I want you to get used to your spreader. I want you to get used to pushing it. There's other things about the, equipment itself that you want to understand more than just how much flows out of it. So I do recommend you use your spreader once, and what I do recommend when you're doing that is you use something that won't hurt the lawn if you put too much down, or if you don't put enough down, it'll be inconsequential. And that's something like an organic fertilizer. So I'm going to put down some Milorganite. I think it's a great practice application. It lets you kind of understand how things go. And I'm going to set up a rate, and I'm going to try to guess just based on logic and intuition as to how much it'll go down. And I'm going to do a couple measurements, and again, you'll see what I do and I'll explain it to you, but that's kind of how you can learn your spreader just with a product that won't hurt anything. Now we're going to use Milorganite for our test application because it's going to be inconsequential. It's not going to hurt anything. If you put it down too heavy, too light, it won't matter. It's just an organic fertilizer. But for our test, we're going to be putting it down fairly light anyway. And I want you to measure out 3 pounds of Milorganite. Now you do this, I have a fish scale here, but you could use a luggage scale, something like that, in a bucket. You want to make sure you tear weight out the bucket, which means don't add the weight of the bucket in there. And if you have a scale, it's going to have a tear setting. But then go ahead and measure out 3 pounds of Milorganite. I don't know how good the audio will be on this, but here's where it really comes home. There you go. There's 3 pounds. That's 3 pounds of Milo. That's all that is. You can see the impellers turning under there. See it bumping around. But since we don't have it open yet, we don't need to worry about it. So we're going to go into how to actually spread the fertilizer later. This is just a test, but I am going to go ahead. This has an edge guard. We can talk about what that does, but I'm going to do a trim pass first, right down the edge here. Then I'm going to come back up. Well, let's see what side the edge guard's on first. Yeah, it looks like the edge guard blocks the right side. So yeah, we'll be going that way. So the edge guard on this stops the product from flowing out the right side. So what we're going to do is we're going to go right down here on this pass. That'll be pass number 1. Pass number 2 will come right back up, and I will be throwing product back to the wheel tracks of the first mark of the first pass. The second pass, I'm going to go down that way, throwing back to the wheel tracks of the previous pass. The next time I'll come up this way, throwing back, and then the final pass will go that way. And I don't know how wide the swath is going to be with this particular spreader here, but that'll be dictated as we go along. But there you go. Again, I keep talking about the visuals. You can really see it now. You have just that little amount of product, and you have to get that evenly across this large 1,000 square foot area. Again, a 1,000 square feet looks big to me, but that's just me. So there you go. And then when we're done, if there's anything left, we're gonna weigh it out. So here we go. So you're going to see that I do. The first one is a trim pass, and this spreader has an edge guard on it, and that's really just to keep things off the sidewalk. You don't have to use it if you did get stuff on the sidewalk. You would just use a broom or your blower to blow it back into the lawn. But either way, that's the first pass down the side is a trim pass, and then each successive pass going up and back, I'm watching the swath width, especially to the left where my previous pass was, and I want to see the grains hitting the wheel tracks of the previous pass. Just kissing those wheel tracks. If they're not, I need to move my swath a little closer to the previous, and if they're overlapping too much, I need to move a little further away. This is why practice will help you make perfect, because the overlap is one of the most important parts of a proper application. Now, as far as the walk speed goes, that's 3.5 miles per hour is the standard, and I call that a double fast walk, or putting some ass into it. But you could go a little slower or a little faster. Just realize how that's going to affect the width of your swath. Okay, so there's what got left over, not much. Now the other thing that you want to do, and it's hard because Milorganite is a dark product, but you want to see how far out it's throwing on each side. That's called your swath width, and you want to understand that. It looked like I was getting 3.5 feet on either side, so makes about good sense. I don't know if you can see, but my final track mark here is about 3.5 feet from that marker, so that came out just about right. So what you'll see is I had just a little bit left over, but between you and me, this is close enough because the spreader isn't going to be able to empty everything out from the very, very bottom, which you'll find out later. So what I'm telling you right now is from my application that I did, on setting 5, I was able to put out 3 pounds of Milorganite product, and that's setting 5. 1/3 of a pound. Yeah, 1/3 of a pound left. All right, so let me just clarify here. I did have 1/3 of a pound left, but again, spreaders, especially this one, will not push out 100% of what's in it. Once stuff gets to the very bottom, it's just inaccessible. And that's why I'm gonna tell you later that you always overfill your spreader and then you just take the leftover and put it back. So take my word for it, this flowed very, very close to perfect on 3 pounds per thousand. It's just that last little bit couldn't get out. And I noticed that at the end of my run, it just wasn't coming out as well. So again, little fudge factor here, but the idea here is that we're in the neighborhood and we know that setting 5 is very close to 3 pounds per thousand with Milorganite. But what about other stuff that may have a little bit different prill size? Can we look at that a certain way? Now here's the good news. Weight and volume are different. And because of that, 3 pounds of most products, as long as they'll go through that opening smoothly and consistently, 3 pounds of just about any product that you can get is also going to flow out properly per 1,000 square feet on setting 5. So the reason the spreader setting is about the same or almost the same is because of that prill size we talked about. You can look here, these are both 3 pounds. Which weighs more, 3 pounds of Milo or 3 pounds of prodiamine? 3 pounds is 3 pounds. But volume wise, you can see the Milo is a much larger stack because it's such a small prill size. There has to be many, many more of those in order to equal 3 pounds. Whereas these are larger, more dense prills, so that you don't need as many to equal 3 pounds. And that's why the same spreader setting can be used. As long as that spreader setting is large enough to accommodate the material, that's why I said you want to look at the prill size before you do anything. As long as it's able to accommodate the material, 3 pounds should flow through about the same. 3 pounds of a smaller prill should still flow through at about the same rate as 3 pounds of a larger prill. So I decide next, let's test my theory, and I put 3 pounds of the prodiamine product into the spreader, same setting, setting 5, and I go out and spread it across our same 1,000 square foot area. So I'm going to call that good. Whenever you get down to the bottom, it's nearly impossible to get all this out. If there was
more product in there, it would have flowed a lot better, a lot easier. So
okay, so now that we know our spreader setting, now what you want to do is, obviously you're not going to do single 1,000 square foot areas, you're going to do larger areas, and that's going to make things actually a lot easier, because to get all of the product out at the very bottom of a spreader is very difficult. So you're always going to want to overload the spreader by at least a pound. That way you have a little bit left over when you're done. You just dump that back in your bag, or you use it for your next fill or whatever. But remember, that goes the same thing with spray tanks. It's really hard to pump those all the way to bottom, and it's really hard to spread all of the granular out of the bottom of a spreader. So always load in an extra pound. But either way, to go ahead and test my theory, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go do a 2,000 square foot area. I'm going to do the other side over there, that's 1,000, and then I'm going to do the back side over there, that's another 1,000. So I'm going to go ahead and load up. I'll need 6 pounds of product, but I'm going to go ahead and load up 7 pounds, and I'm going to go do that 2,000 square foot area over there and see how we come out. Remember, I'm going to use setting 5 or 5.5, whichever one you want. You need to test your own spreader, and that should work for 3 pounds per 1,000 for pretty much any product that you're flowing through it. So let me let you in on a little secret here. Once you understand what your 3 pounds per 1,000 rate is for one granular product, it should be just about the same setting, very close, for every other granular product. And that's because weight does not always equal volume, and that's where prill size comes in as well. Really, the prill size, you just want to make sure that your opening is large enough to accommodate prills falling through it. But secondly, the larger the prill, the less volume of material needs to flow through. The smaller the prill, the greater amount of volume needs to flow through. But the setting remains the same. And in this case, we found that it's like 5 or 5.5. So then the next thing I did is I chose a 2,000 square foot area. I kept my setting on setting 5. And I put in 7 pounds of product. Now my rate is 3 pounds of product per 1,000 square feet. And I've got 2,000 square foot of area, so I need to put down 6 pounds of product. I put in 7 pounds because remember, I told you always want to overfill so that way everything can flow nice and easy and steady. So at the end, when I'm done applying, I should have 1 pound left over. And if I do, then I know I'm very close and I'm ready to go out and spread the entire lawn. And I can feel confident about that, and so can you.
.39, and what was I at, 1.22? I don't know, I'll fix it in the video. I don't know, I'll show you in the video, but that's pretty darn close. So it's definitely somewhere right in here, 5 1/4, 5 1/2, right in there.
All right, so for those of you with the Earthway, now again, I've had mine for a long time, and so, you know, this linkage may be a little loose in here, things may be adjusted, but I did make sure that my drop holes are still fully closing, because that's really the main thing. But either way, your setting, and again, you're gonna have to test your own, but I had this set right here. It's hard to see with this wing nut on here, but it's setting 12. So this goes, you know, like 0, and it goes 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, like 30 is the widest open. So we're way down here, and we have this wing nut that stops it, you know, the lever actuates, and it just hits that. When you actuate the lever, it just hits that, and that's what stops it from opening. So, but again, it's like that 12, 13 mark right there would be a 3 pounds per 1,000 rate for you. And again, I tested it with Milo, and I also tested it with our prodiamine. So that's right, you need to test your own, but there you go. There's a great starting point for you. So at the end of the day, what we've learned is you test your first time with something that's going to be fairly inconsequential, like a Milorganite. You understand what 3 pounds per 1,000 is like as a setting with Milorganite, and you also use that to understand how to walk. Your walk speed, just in case you've forgotten, is 3.5 miles an hour, which is putting some ass into it. But you do that with the Milorganite, and then from there, all your other products, as long as the prills are big enough to fall through the drop holes efficiently, they all should be right about that same setting. But you should still weigh out your product and test it like I did here. Now, it's not so important to weigh out fertilizers. You can eyeball those. But when it comes to herbicides, pesticides, things like that, you're putting out granular, you do want to weigh them out so you know exactly how much went down across each area of your lawn. That way, if something fails, you'll know it was not due to your application, because you know you measured things out and your application worked right, so the failure may be due to something else. So with that, I really hope that these tutorials are helping you to gain the confidence that it takes to get out and do your own lawn, and also understand the why behind it, because anybody can tell you what to put down, but when you understand why you're putting it down and you understand the math behind it, then you know how to double check them and make sure that they're telling you right, including me. So with that, I'm Alan Hain, the Lawn Care Nut. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the lawn.